Wonderful. So I'd like to give a happy welcome to each of you to this second Scottish Country Dance Zoom variety show, sponsored by your Royal Scottish Country Dance Society Vancouver branch. It's so nice to see all of your faces again. We extend a special welcome to those of you who have renewed since the October show. Your support is greatly appreciated. And thanks to all of you, the number of people who have renewed is still growing. Let's encourage the reluctant ones to join us. Before we begin, we are again going to present the safety briefing. We are to stay home if we are ill. We're to wear masks when we go out. We're to physically distance, and we're to wash our hands. And we know all of this from Dr. Bonnie Henry. This is her wonderful picture when she was, I believe, 7 years old. And this is the woman who speaks to us today, who tells us that at all times and under all circumstances, we are to be kind, to be calm, and to be safe. Thank you. After the safety briefing come the announcements. The board has a very special announcement. You'll remember the contest that we had last year to award a $100 prize to the club with the most new members. We have a winner, and it is the West End Club. Let's give them a rousing applause. They did very well. The second announcement is this. At Our Lady Aberdeen Tea Dance each year, the sponsoring club selects a charity to which to donate the proceeds. In this year of dance, and no club sponsor, the board has selected Honor House in New Westminster, which is a home away from home and a place for recovery for our Canadian Armed Forces, emergency services personnel, veterans, and their families. You can donate on our website using PayPal or your own credit card. Donations will receive a tax receipt. If donations do not reach $2,000, the board will vote to make up the difference. But we are donating very well. At 5 p.m. tonight, our treasurer Stewart told me that $1,642 have already been donated. So we're well on our way to our $2,000 goal. Your generosity is much appreciated. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing the president of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society, Vancouver branch, Vicki Downey. As you see, Vicki is here with us on the screen from, as she says, somewhere north of Pemberton, but she has intermittent Wi-Fi. So she has recorded her remarks, and here they are.
Remembrance Day and Puppy Day.
Sorry, that's not the right one. Exit full screen. Oh, you stupid thing. Sorry about that. We'll get the right one. We know this, don't we? Hold on. And we need to close this. Come on, close it. All right, say whatever you want to do here. Okay. Now, let's go back to the full view. Let's go to share the screen. Let's go continue.
Well, do you want me to try and read it?
If you'd like to, sure.
I can.
I think that would be good at this point. It's well, hang on. It should be there. I can't figure out why it's not there. Let me try one more time. There we go. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to the First Lady Aberdeen celebration, held virtually on Zoom. The Lady Aberdeen Club has sponsored the tea dance each year on Remembrance Day since 1939. It was eventually taken over by the Vancouver branch of the RSCDS in 2010, when the Lady Aberdeen Club ceased to exist. Proceeds from the dance have always been donated to various charities, the war effort, veterans organizations, and other charities, and for the past few years to Honour House. Honour House is a refuge, a home away from home, for members of our Canadian Armed Forces, veterans, emergency services personnel, and their families. It's especially important in these difficult times. If you'd like to make a donation, we encourage you to do so on our website, rscdsvancouver.org. I want to thank you all for renewing your memberships and continuing to support the RSCDS. We hope to be dancing together in the not too distant future. While we will not be dancing today, Heather Hankin has organized another amazing virtual concert to entertain us this evening. Get ready to relax, enjoy the show, and the breakout groups that will follow. Take care.
Thank you very much, Vicki. We are blessed that we can overcome some of our technology challenges, but they always pop up with gremlins. So today is Remembrance Day. This day has exceptional meaning for those of us with Canadian and Scottish connections. Here is Janet Mason to tell us why.
Remembrance Day and Poppy Day are inextricably linked with World War I through a poem written by a young Canadian. John McCrae, a soldier, physician, and poet, gave voice to his fallen friend and all those who gave their lives in combat, and they continue to be heard to this very day. In 1872, John Alexander McCrae was born in Guelph, Ontario, to Scottish immigrants from Kirkcudbright in Scotland. His birthplace, a limestone cottage in downtown Guelph, has been preserved as a museum, and beside it is a cenotaph and a garden of remembrance. I visited McCrae House when I was last in Guelph and enjoyed a cup of tea, aptly named McCrae House Blend. Educated in Guelph, Toronto University, Montreal, and Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, John became a doctor, pathologist, and educator. In fact, two of his students became the first women doctors in Ontario. He served in South Africa in the Second Boer War, and then in 1914 signed up with the Canadian Expeditionary Force. Throughout the war, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, as medical officer, tended the sick and wounded. One of the fiercest two-week battles was at Ypres in the Flanders area. The Canadians held the line, but many were killed, including John's close friend, Alexis Helmer, who was buried on the hillside with so many others. At the time, McCrae noted the poppies growing so quickly around the graves. The next day, sitting in the back of an ambulance, he wrote this poem, In Flanders Fields. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing, flies scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Now, thank you, Janet. That was beautiful. And I really appreciate the fact that you and your daughter worked together to create that. It was lovely. Now for a bit of dancing, because that's what we normally do on this day. Here again is the Vancouver Police Pipe Band with the branch demonstration team. This is the Rain Dancing and Montgomery's Rant. Thank you to the Vancouver Police Pipe Band and to the demonstration team and to Kay Sutherland, their teacher. On this day, we remember all who have served in the military. We also remember the many frontline workers who are keeping us safe right now. And we remember the good times we've had dancing together over the years. Marianne McDevitt has put together a reminder of our happy days at marvelous events. The music and these photos came from the 50th anniversary celebration. Come on, go, play there. Mhm. Okay, come on. We gotta get out of this now. How do I get out of this? Come on. Exit full screen. Thank you very much, Marianne, for putting together that wonderful music and the photos for that nostalgic Remembrance. For a better understanding of how the Lady Aberdeen tea dance came to be, here is our branch historian, Rosemary Coop, with a new camera to take us back to the beginning. Rosemary, take it away.
Thank you, Heather. And I just want to say before I begin how marvelous it was to see those evocative photographs that Marianne has just shown us. So I'm going to talk about Lady Aberdeen herself and the club named after her. And I have two themes, the theme of dancing, of course, but also the theme of philanthropy. So here she is. Here is the young Lady Aberdeen. She was born Ishbel Marshbanks in 1857 and grew up among the landed gentry of Inverness-shire, the family fortune coming from banking and brewing. The tutors who visited her house probably included a dancing master, as most young people in Scotland then learned to dance, especially the reels, which were considered national dances. So it's not surprising that one of the first things she did when she came to Canada as the wife of the Governor General Lord Aberdeen in 1893 was to end her first vice-regal ball with a foursome reel and insist on dancing it herself. None of the guests apparently could be persuaded to take the floor. So the reel was performed by Lady Aberdeen with two stalwart aides-de-camp and her children's governess. However, Lady Aberdeen was passionately serious about many causes, particularly the welfare of women. Before she came to Canada, she was president of the International Council of Women, an organization which lobbied for women's rights, and she quickly founded the National Council of Women in Ottawa. So we'll see her in the next photograph, surrounded at Rideau Hall, surrounded by her council members. And I know we have some dog lovers in the group, so I can't help pointing out that at the bottom left, and thank you, Heather, for pointing it out for us, is, I think, one of the golden retrievers, which apparently had been bred by Lady Aberdeen's own father in Scotland and which she introduced to Canada. So, back to the theme. Her empathy, especially for women, was shown in another organization she helped to found, the Victorian Order of Nurses. In particular, she was struck by the lonely isolation of farming life on the prairies. So she started an association with an impressive name, the Aberdeen Association for the Distribution of Useful Literature to Settlers on the Prairie. So there's a mouthful for you. Later, she sent parcels of seed from Scotland, which were probably more useful than the literature. The Aberdeens also made their mark on BC. During a visit here, they bought property in the Okanagan and had apple orchards planted for the first time there. So you could say they planted the seeds for our Okanagan fruit industry. However, let's get back to dancing. Lady Aberdeen organized lavish state balls, often to promote her social beliefs. For example, a grand ball was held as the climax to her farewell visit to Toronto in 1897. Its purpose was to celebrate the Victorian era with its marvelous progress. And I'm going to quote from a book which Rose Powell's mother, Eileen, lent me quite a few years ago. So I'm particularly happy that Rose is here tonight. In this book, we read, "The dances and tableaux depicted the glories of art and literature, and then sport, and finally industry, some ladies being attired as codfish. While men were dressed as telephones, ladies had wings on their shoulders and postcards sewn to their gowns to celebrate the postal service, and a sparkling ensemble announced the arrival of electricity. The vice-regal party arrived in velvet and silk and jewels with pages and maids-in-waiting, trumpeters and courtiers." You can see some of that splendor in this next photograph, not very clear, I'm afraid, I downloaded it from the internet, but it's a ball held in the Senate chamber in 1896. It looks a little bit cramped for a ball, I think, but you may be able to make Lady Aberdeen out at the front near the bottom of the photograph with her husband, that's right, exactly, the Earl of Aberdeen. Apparently, the guests at this ball represented people from Canadian history, and Ottawa ladies presented dances from 8 different historical periods, dances like the Pavane and the Gavotte. At the conclusion, the viceregal party performed the intricate state lances, a form of the quadrilles, and Lady Aberdeen wrote in her diary, "We felt it rather formidable to get through, and some of our cabinet ministers got very far astray. I wonder how many of our present cabinet ministers would have enough deft footwork for that." After leaving Canada, the Aberdeens served 2 viceregal terms in Ireland. In Dublin in 1910, Lady Aberdeen announced that the highlight of the next season would be an Irish lace ball, with all those in attendance wearing lace. Apparently, local lace makers had a very profitable winter after that ball. So once again, we see the link between dancing and philanthropy. After she went back to Scotland, Lady Aberdeen continued to travel and give speeches to promote her beliefs. She led the International Council of Women until shortly before she died. And in May 1938, as an elderly woman, she made the connection which led to her name still being used for our annual tea dance. She broadcast a message from her home in Scotland to the National Council of Women convention at the Hotel Vancouver. The organizer of this convention and president of the local Vancouver Council of Women, this is her official photo, was none other than the indefatigable Mrs. Thomas Bingham, who had started Scottish country dancing in Vancouver in 1930 and rode the streetcar almost every night of the week to teach her classes. Mrs. Bingham never passed up an opportunity to start a new class. And in 1938, her Council of Women adopted Scottish country dancing as a special project. This enabled her to set up a demonstration at the National Convention. The dance group that grew out of this was naturally all female. It became independent of the council in 1939 and held its first tea dance at the Hotel Georgia on the 22nd of April of that year. A few days later, the death of Lady Aberdeen was announced, and so the newly fledged dance group was named Lady Aberdeen, I think as a tribute from one energetic and practical social activist to another of an earlier generation. Incidentally, it was all female dance groups like this one. Lady Aberdeen was not the only one in Vancouver that helped Scottish country dancing survive the dearth of men during World War II. So now we see the tea dance program from 1942. I'm not sure how easy it is for you to make it out, but if you can, you may notice at the top of the page, the Lady Aberdeen branch, which is a little puzzling. In fact, the various clubs, thank you, Heather, the clubs which sent representatives to the Provincial Society were all called branches. You'll also notice that it wasn't held on November 11th. The earliest reference I've been able to find to the Remembrance Day dance was 1958. But you will also notice the prestigious downtown location, and at the very bottom of the page, you'll see Mrs. Bingham's name as program director. And if you can make out the program, you'll also notice that it has a very wide range of dances, from round the room dances to square set dances to reels, the whole span of Scottish dancing. Now, more important, I think, is the tradition of philanthropy in the group, which started in the 1940s. The Provincial Society minutes for September 1956 mention that the Lady Aberdeen Group's open party has raised money to donate their 9th wheelchair to Shaughnessy Military Hospital. So they must have been making those donations from sometime in the late 40s. The following year, they also donated several table radios to the hospital. Now we're going to see a photograph of some notables of the Lady Aberdeen Group, I think from the middle 40s. It shows Mrs. Bingham in the center with the dark skirt. To her immediate left is Nellie Forbes, as she was then, later Nellie Mackenzie of Nellie Mackenzie's jig fame. And she took over teaching of the group from Mrs. Bingham and was also president for some years. To the far right of the photograph, also in a dark skirt, is Mrs. Breckenridge, who was another president of Lady Aberdeen. The range of charities supported by the Lady Aberdeen Tea Dance has broadened over the years to include the Salvation Army and women's shelters, as well as veterans charities like Honour House, this year's designated recipient. But it still reflects the humanitarian motives behind the Council of Women. The first mere man permitted to join the Lady Aberdeen Scottish Country Dance Club was Ken Bennett. He succeeded his wife Eileen as teacher in the 90s and led most of the tea dances we remember. Here he is in 2001. But most of all, we always have such a wonderful time at the Remembrance Day Tea Dance. It's one of the happiest, most inclusive dance events of our year, and I know we will once again. So we'll finish with a photo of Nellie Mackenzie having a great time as she cuts her 90th birthday cake at the 1992 Tea Dance. Thank you, and thank you, Heather, for so much help with the photographs.
And thank you very much, Rosemary. That was a wonderful, wonderful, yes, let's give her a round of applause for sure. And you may notice down on the bottom of your screen to the right, there is a little box for reactions. So I don't know how many choices you may have, but here's mine showing applause. And we can also do a heart. Thank you very much, Rosemary. That was really wonderful. So we're now going to remember a bit of what dancing at the Lady Aberdeen Tea Dance was last year. I wish we had lots and lots of videos of everyone, but we do have a wonderful video of our demonstration team dancing the Red Poppy. Doing this, I'm going to get the full screen. Okay. Thank you very much to the DEM team. That was really a great reminiscent. And thanks again to Kay Sutherland. Now, some 20 years ago, a young woman decided to begin Scottish country dancing. She also took up piping. And this very special lady is with us tonight to tell us about her journeys. Please welcome from the Burnaby Club, Noreen Applegath. Welcome, Noreen. Are you unmuted? Oops, I gotta find you, Noreen. Hang on. Okay, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm
There-
unmuted. There she goes.
Wonderful.
Hi, my husband wishes he had that button.
Yes, I think several husbands wish they had that button. So I just want to find out a bit more about your background, Noreen. It sounds so interesting. Where did your family originally come from?
Well, my grandparents were all from Scotland, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, but they emigrated to Canada. And so my parents were born here and I was as well in Vancouver.
Wonderful. And how did you come to this special exercise that we all enjoy so much, Scottish country dancing?
Well, that was my mother-in-law. She got wind of it, I guess, through somebody she knew and thought that would be lots of fun. So she talked me to come along and I did. And I've been dancing ever since. She has since passed away, but she danced as long as she could. And I'm still enjoying it very much.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What is her name? There may be people here tonight who knew her.
There would be quite a few. Dorothy Applegath was her name. She lived to a ripe old age of 93, and I think she danced till she was in her 80s, as I recall. So she did well.
And originally you joined, I think, Glen Eyre.
I did join Glen Eyre, and Jean Wagstaff was my teacher, and she's still teaching there, and I would still be there. I miss it very much, as well as Monday night in Burnaby, but my piping practices are on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings, so you can't do it all.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Tell me about your very first dance.
Well, that was just a wonder to me. I'm totally new to the whole dancing experience, and it was Jean ran a dance in one of the church halls, and I was just I just really loved watching the room full of people. There were many there that night, and I watched. It was wonderful to see everybody move in the same way and do the steps without anybody calling the moves out, just did it on your own. And it was lovely to see. A few mistakes, but everybody laughed, so that was good.
That's right. Forgiving group. That's great.
Right. Yeah.
So you also 20 years ago took up bagpipes. How is it that you took both of them up?
Some would say perhaps I'm mentally challenged. I'm not sure. The piping is an entirely different world. I had a neighbor who, at a ripe old age, older than I was at the time, decided to take them up. And I thought, well, now there, I've always loved bagpipes. The history of the family is there. So I thought, now there's a challenge. Well, yes, it was, and still is. It's quite the instrument to learn, and but I've enjoyed it. It's been really something special. They say it takes 7 years to make a good piper, and I'm fully on board with that. It takes a while.
And you now belong to 2 pipe bands.
I do. The Port Coquitlam Legion was my first pipe band. It's a wonderful group of people. I'm still with them, and just people that love to play. And we do a few performances in the year, and we put on a Robbie Burns dinner, and we do parades, and we just have a very good time playing our instruments. So it's good.
You often play on Remembrance Day, I think.
I do. I am also a member of the RCMP pipe band, and so I have basically had to alternate. 1 year I play in Port Coquitlam at the Cenotaph, and 1 year I play down in Cloverdale with the RCMP band. So I've never been able to attend the Lady Aberdeen dance because I'm busy.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a very strong connection through your family, your father and your father-in-law, to playing on Remembrance Day.
I do. They both were in the war, in the World War II. My dad was in the Navy, and my husband's father was in the Air Force. My husband's father, at 21, his plane was shot down. He had to jump out of a plane and land in enemy territory, and he managed to hide for a few days, but they did find him, and he spent the next 2 years in a prisoner of war camp. And that was not something he ever would speak of. He came out of the camp at 6'2", 105 pounds.
Oh my.
So you can imagine that it wasn't very much fun. So yes.
So you have quite an interesting life here with dancing and piping. We don't apparently have any video of you dancing, but we do have a video of you piping, which we want to share now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Noreen. That was really wonderful. Let's give
You're
her a
welcome.
round of applause.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you. Mary Murray tells me that back in the late 1980s, Vancouver dancers assembled in the quadrangle of Simon Fraser University to dance to the Simon Fraser Pike Band. That performance of 256 Scottish country dancers was entered in the Guinness Book of World Records. We're looking for that video. 2 years later, the Toronto branch amassed 512 dancers at the Canadian National Exposition to exceed that record. And in 1983, at the Sky Dome in Toronto, Ontario, 960 Scottish country dancers smashed the record. Here is that video. It is a bit blurry, but it's all people, 960 dancing Scottish country dance.
In 1991, the Toronto branch of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society, inspired by George MacDonald Fraser's book, The General Danced at Dawn, entered the Guinness Book of Records when 512 members danced together on the same field at the CNE. Accompanied by the music of Bobby Brown and Scottish accent, and dancing to the tunes Corn Ricks, Sandy O'er the Lee, and Half an Eightsome Reel, please welcome 960 members and friends of the Toronto branch of the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society.
I think we get the idea. That goes on for quite a long time, as we all know. But I think it's wonderful to see 960 people enjoying our favorite pastime. As we close tonight's show, we want to mark another milestone in the march of North American history, and perhaps even broader than that. When the elephant moves, the mouse and someone else trembles. Sorry, I couldn't resist it. Okay, so soon we hope the lady regains her podium and holds her torch high. All right, we have come to the end of the show. In a moment, you can join breakout groups to visit with friends. But before we do, I want to thank Jillian Beatty for this wonderful puppy, which she made and delivered to me before it rained. And I also want to thank Janet Mason for doing 3 Zoom practice sessions with me today. It's been quite an afternoon. I also want to thank all of you for joining this evening. It's really wonderful to see all of you. I miss you so much, and I know you miss each other. And please, if you know of any videos or photos or stories or whatever you think would be good for one of these shows, please send it along. We're going to take a break for a couple of months. Christmas is always a busy time, even if we are going to be more or less at home. And there may be a show for Burns that's coming from the Highland Games Committee. So our next show will be in the spring. We wish you a very Merry Christmas, and may 2021 be a whole lot better than 2020.
Thank you, Heather. You've again provided a lovely variety of interesting, informative, and enjoyable presentations for us. Thank you also to all of those who contributed. I'm delighted Heather is handling the technology and not me. Thank you all for joining us. It was wonderful to see, and I'm looking forward to chatting with some of you in the breakout groups that Heather's about to present. So take care and stay safe so we can all get back to dancing again soon.
Thanks very much, Vicki. Thank you. And thanks for all your hard work too. I know you're doing a lot of it. It may seem as though we're not doing any, we're not doing any dancing, but there are still a lot of things going on in the background to run an organization.